So, welcome guys. Today we are going to start the seventh chapter, the administration of Shivaji Maharaj. Now, as you can see in the first paragraph, Shivaji Maharaj founded Swaraj. Right? He himself, he had himself crowned. Now, Shivaji Maharaj was crowned. After the coronation, Maharaj accomplished Dakshin Digvijay. What is Dakshin Vijay? Digvijay? That is the conquest of the south. Right? Now, Now Maharaj had accomplished the conquest of the south. That is, he conquered the southern region of Indian subcontinent. Now, the Swaraj expanded, comprising large areas of Nashik. Now, as you can see here, we can clearly see what was the territory of Swaraj. This chapter is talking about. It comprises Nashik, Pune, Satara, Sangli, Kolhapur, Sindhudurg, Ratnagiri, Raigad, Thane district of Maharashtra. So these districts were known as Swaraj. Nashik, Pune, Satara, Sangli, Kolhapur, Sindhudurg, Ratnagiri, Raigad, Thane district of Maharashtra. It also includes parts of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu state, that is southern state. To ensure the smooth management of the affairs of the Swaraj and to ensure people's welfare, Shivaji Maharaj set up an efficient administration. Now, in this chapter is all about the administration. How was the administration in the times of Shivaji Maharaj, right? Now, we shall get some information about it in this chapter. Now, we are going to talk about the administration of Swaraj of Shivaji Maharaj in this chapter. Now, Ashtapradhan Mandal, that is the council of 8 ministers. So this was how Ashtapradhan Mandal, that is the council of 8 ministers, was formed at the time of his coronation. That is Shivaji Maharaj's coronation. Shivaji Maharaj appointed a council of 8 ministers. Right? There was a council. Council basically comprises of uh, various members, and this council was of 8 ministers. So eight ministers were there in this council. The administration was divided into 8 departments. So 8 ministers and 8 departments. So each minister will get one department, right? The head was appointed for each department. Now, these 8 heads of the department constituted Ashtapradhan Mandal. Ashta means 8, so that's why Ashtapradhan Mandal. Maharaj alone had the power to appoint a minister. So, Shivaji Maharaj had alone had a power to appoint a minister or remove him from his position, right? Now, the ministers were answerable to Maharaj for administration of their respective departments. So they were answerable to Shivaji Maharaj. Shivaji Maharaj selected the council on the basis of their merits and achievements. So Shivaji Maharaj also were concerned about the selection of this head of the councils. So he was very interested in looking into the merits and achievements of particular council. He did not give them jagirs, watans, gifts, or fiefs. They were paid handsome salaries instead. So he didn't pay jagirs or watans like the other rulers at that time. They were giving the ministers jagirs and watans, but Shivaji Maharaj didn't. He paid them handsome salaries. Now we are going to see the policy regarding agriculture, right? How was the policy in the times of Shivaji Maharaj with respect to agriculture? Agriculture was the main occupation, right? Main occupation in villages. Still, in India, agriculture is the main occupation. Maharaj knew the importance of agriculture. That's why he paid attention to the welfare of farmers. So Maharaj was concerned about the welfare of farmers. He entrusted the responsibility of organizing the land revenue system to his capable, experienced office bearer Annaji Datto. So Annaji Datto was uh, in charge of handling the land revenue system, right? He warned the officer that they should not collect more revenues. Now, this is now showing that Shivaji Maharaj took a good welfare of their farmers, unlike other rulers at that time. Right? Than the amount that was fixed. He encouraged peasants to bring uncultivated land under cultivation. Now, he encouraged farmers to cultivate more. If the crop was lost due to excessive rains or drought, or if any enemy army had devastated the area of the villages, remission were granted in the land revenue and other taxes, right? So now this is the Ashtapradhan Mandal of Shivaji Maharaj, right? As you can see here. So this is the name of the minister, designation, and the work that is uh, given to the particular minister. First is Moro Trimbak Pingale. So his designation was Pradhan. So what is Pradhan? Pradhan basically does running the administration and making arrangement for the conquered territories, right? Pradhan was the head of the council, right? So this was the Ashtapradhan Mandal. Then second is Ramchandra Nilkant Mazumdar, Amatya, keeping the accounts of the state. Third is Annaji Datto. He was a Sachiv. And Annaji Datto was also responsible for land revenue system, as we have seen earlier, preparing royal edicts. Right? So Dattaji Trimbak Vaknis. He was designated as Mantri correspondence. Now fifth is Hambira Rao Mohite, that is Senapati, right? Organization of the army and the protection of the kingdom. Sixth is Ramchandra Trimbak Davir, Suman, foreign relation. Seventh, Niraji Ravji, Nyadhish, dispensing justice. Eighth is Moreshwar Pandit Rao, designation looking after religious matters. So this is how the administration, that is Ashtapradhan Mandal of Shivaji Maharaj, was there at that time. Right? Now the next paragraph. Maharaj had instructed his officers to provide peasants with bullocks, plows, and good seeds for sowing. So this again is showing the welfare of farmers at the time of Shivaji Maharaj. Right? Now, village economy of that period. So at the time of Shivaji Maharaj, how village economy was uh, there, and we are going to see this. Agriculture was a backbone of rural economy, right? At that time also, in villages, many occupations developed to supplement agriculture, right? So various secondary occupations were developed to supplement this agriculture. Now artisans, right? Artisans in the village produced goods fulfilled the needs of the local people, right? So at that time also, indigenous goods were produced for the local population. There was no kind of export at that time. In this sense, a village was a self-sufficient unit. Now, this is very important. At that time, village was a very self-sufficient, because everything was made in the villages and it was also sold in the villages. Unlike the modern times. In modern time, like we export a lot of, sorry, we import a lot of goods from foreign countries and we consume it. And also vice versa, we export our produce to the foreign countries. So but at that time there was no import or export as such, so the village was a very self-sufficient unit, right? Farmer gave a definite share from their produce to artisans. So this was a basically a barter system that they followed. Very less exchange of money was there. For artisan was getting paid in the form of food from the farmers for his services to particular farm. This share was called baluta. So this chair was called as Pulutta. Very important to remember. Now, trade and businesses at the time of Shivaji Maharaj. How trade and businesses were there? So Maharaj knew that the kingdom does not prosper without an increase in the trade. So Maharaj knew that there must be a good economic activity, good increase in trade. That's how we will prosper and will become rich. So merchants bring noble goods as also certain necessities into the kingdom. Good became available in plenty. Trade prospers, adding to wealth. The view that Maharaj took of the merchants is seen in Ajnapatra, where merchants are described as follows. Merchants are the ornaments of the kingdom and the glory of the king. So Maharaj knew the importance of merchants, and that is how he treated them well, right? It was the policy of Maharaj to protect industries. Right? As excellent example of this is a salt industry. At the time, salt industry was there. He protected the salt industry in Konkan. At that time, traders imported salt from Portuguese territory and sold in Swaraj. So at that time also, traders, local traders imported salt from Portuguese territory, right? And they sold in Swaraj. That affected the local trade in Konkan area. So it was affecting the indigenous trade in local area. So Maharaj charged heavy duty on the salt imported into Swaraj from Portuguese territory. The intention was that the salt imported from Portuguese territory would then cost more as a result, and its import would decrease and the sale of the local salt would increase. Right? So this strategy is still getting followed in the economy of present day India. Right? Now, the military organization. How was the military organization? So now we are basically studying the whole administration at the time of Shivaji Maharaj, right? So how was the military organization? There were two main divisions of the army. First is infantry, second is cavalry. In the infantry, there were officers such as Havaldars, Jumledars, etc. The chief of the infantry was called Sarnobat, right? So chief of the infantry was called as Chernob. He was the highest officer in the infantry, Chernobyl, right? In the cavalry, there were two types of cavalrymen, namely Shiledars and Bargirs, right? So in cavalry, the Shiledar had his own horse and a weapon. The Bargir was provided with the horse and weapon by the state, right? In cavalry, Bargirs were more in number. The rank of cavalry officer were similar to those of infantry officers. The highest officer in cavalry was Chernobyl. Netoji Palkar, Prataprao Gujar, Hambirrao Mohite were some of the famous Shonabats of the cavalry. Now there is an activity here. Obtain information about armed forces of India. State the names of the three armed forces. Three armed forces: the Army, Navy, Air Force. What is the designation of the head of each? So designation are various different like Air Marshal, General, etc. Who is the head of all the three forces? So head of all the three forces is the President of India, right? The intelligence department. Now, how was the intelligence department at the time of Shivaji Maharaj? So, you should know that this was a very unique department at that time also, and still various countries uh, have the intelligence department, right? It was necessary to protect the Swaraj from its enemies. For this, it was necessary to get precise and timely information about the movements of the enemy. It was the job of the intelligence department to obtain the information about the movements of enemies and submit it to Maharaj. So, This was a very important department in terms of security of the Swaraj. The intelligence service of Maharaj was very efficient. Bahirji Naik. So names are very important. Bahirji Naik was the head of the intelligence department, right? So as you can see here, Bahirji Naik was the head of the intelligence department. He was extremely skilled in his job. He collected accurate and detailed information about Surat before the raid on Surat. So as you can see here, at the time also intelligence department was very aware and very active, and as you can see he collected information, accurate and detailed information about Surat before raid on Surat. So this was a intelligence department at the time of Shivaji Maharaj, right? Now we are going to see forts, right? Forts were of great importance in medieval age. So now why they were of great importance? Possession of a fort made it possible to keep an eye on surrounding area. So fort is basically area like this, as you can see here, Fort Padamdur. So it was a very elevated area at a height, and you can keep an eye on a surrounding area easily. So you'll notice whenever the enemy will attack. In case of a foreign invasion, it was possible to protect the people taking shelter in the fort. It was possible to stock the fort with food grains, war materials, ammunition, military garrison. The importance of fort in the foundation of Swaraj is well stated in Ajnapatra. So this kingdom was created by late revered and excelled Majesty Fort alone. So Ajnapatra describes this that it was a very important uh, for security reasons, right? Now there is activity. Do you know the description of the building of the fort by Shivaji Maharaj in the treatise Udbhushanam composed by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is remarkable. So it is as follows: Shivaji Maharaj built many impenetrable forts on the ridge of plateaus in Sahyadri mountain range, in many places of Karnataka up to Baglan. The intention behind it was to protect this earth. Under his successful leadership, these forts were built from the banks of the river Krishna up to the sea in all the four directions. The Rayagiri Fort, Raja Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj remained at the forefront among all kings and was victorious. So it was a very important that fort was a very important because for expanding the territory and for taking care of a particular territory. There were about 300 forts in the Swaraj, right? So 300 is a very good number as right. Maharaj spent a considerable amount of money on building and repairs of these forts. He built hill forts like Pratapgarh, Pavangarh, Rajgarh. There was a Kiledar, a Sabnis, and a Karkhasnis, Karkhanis on every fort. The Karkhanis looked after the storage of food grains and the maintenance of war material on the fort. So these were some names about some important positions offered at the time of administration in the Swaraj. Now sea forts we are going to see. So Shivaji Maharaj had sea forts because the boundary of Swaraj had a sea, right? The western frontier, right? Maharaj knew the importance of the sea forts too. One of the sea forts that he built was Sindhudurg at Malwan. It is an excellent seaport. To give strength to the construction of the forts, five kandis of lead was poured into its foundation. Right? A sea fort called Padamdurg was built in front of Rajapuri in order to counter the Siddhi power. Siddhi people were from Africa. About this fort, Maharaj had has said in a letter that by constructing Padma Durg, he had set up another Rajapuri to overshadow Rajapuri of Siddhi. Now, how was the navy at that time? So, enemies on the west coast of the India, the Portuguese of Goa, the Siddhis of Janjira, the British factor of Surat, Rajapur, created obstacles in the work of expanding the Swaraj. It was necessary to curb their activities and to protect the west coast. For this purpose, Maharaj raised a navy. He realized that the one who has a navy controls the sea. Maharaj had a great foresight. So as you can see here, these are some images. Gurak. So this was a ship, that is navy ship at the time of Shivaji Maharaj. This was a Galbat, a different ship. Right? So these were two kind of ship, Gurab and Galbat. Now there is an activity. Obtain the information about the warship in the Indian Navy and make a collection of the pictures of ship. So very interesting activity. You can always go on the internet to search about various Indian warships and their names and collect the pictures. Right now, there were 400 ships of various kinds in his navy. So 400 was a very large number at that time. 400 ships. They included battleships like Gurak, Galbat, and Pearl. Ships were built in the creek. So ships were built in the creek of Kalyan, Bhivandi, Vijaydur, Malwan, Mayanak Bhandari, and Daulat Khan were the chief naval commanders. So Mayanak Bhandari and Daulat Khan were chief naval commanders. Concerns for the welfare of his subjects. So now how Shivaji Maharaj had a concern for the welfare of the people he was basically with. Maharaj did not work only with the limited ambition of conquering enemy territories and establishing dominate, dominance like other things. His main objective was to make his subjects independent. Now, his main objective was to make his people independent, right? He was aware that if his subjects were to really get the joy of freedom, it was necessary to have disciplined administration, take comprehensive care of people's welfare, and protect the conquered territories. Maharaj was not merely a ruler; he was watchful administrator who cared for his people's welfare. This is clearly seen in his administration on this day. So this is the end of the the chapter called as administration at the time of Swaraj. So as you can see, there is an exercise. You can easily complete this exercise and this activity. Interview a person in your neighborhood who has served in the armed forces. Very interesting activity. Visit a market in your town. List the items prepared grown in the neighborhood and those that come from outside. So you can easily identify such items which are imported from various regions of India. So this is a Fort Sindhudurg, which is in between the water body, right? So this is a Fort Sindhudurg. So we'll see the next chapter, that is an ideal ruler, in the next video. Thank you.